Matthew 13. That same day Jesus went out of the house and sat by the lake. Such large crowds gathered around him that he got into a boat and sat in it, while all the people stood on the shore. Then he told them many things in parables, saying, A farmer went out to sow his seed, and as he was scattering the seed, some fell along the path, and the birds came and ate it up. Some fell on rocky places where it did not have much soil. It sprang up quickly because the soil was shallow. But when the sun came up, the plants were scorched, and they were withered because they had no root. Other seed fell among thorns, which grew up and choked the plants. Still other seed fell on good soil, where it produced a crop, 160 or 30 times what was sown. Whoever has ears, let them hear. The disciples came to him and asked, Why do you speak to the people in parables? He replied, Because the knowledge of the secrets of the kingdom of heaven has been given to you, but not to them. Whoever has will be given more, and they will have an abundance. Whoever does not have, even what they have will be taken from them. This is why I speak to them in parables. Though seeing, they do not see. Though hearing, they do not hear or understand. In them is fulfilled the prophecy of Isaiah. You will ever be hearing, but never understanding. You will ever be seeing, but never perceiving. For this people's heart has become calloused. They hardly hear with their ears, and they have closed their eyes. Otherwise they might see with their eyes, hear with their ears, and understand with their hearts, and turn, and I would heal them. But blessed are your eyes because they see, and your ears because they hear. For truly I tell you, many prophets and righteous people longed to see what you see, but did not see it, and to hear what you hear, but did not hear it. Listen then to what the parable of the sower means. When anyone hears the message about the kingdom and does not understand it, the evil one comes and snatches away what was sown in their heart. Now, why do they not understand it? Why do they hear, but they don't understand? He just got done telling us they don't have the heart. For this people's heart has become callous. They hardly hear with their ears, and they have closed their eyes. And then a little further up, it talks about understanding with their heart. Listen then to what the parable of the sower means. When anyone hears the message about the kingdom and does not understand it, the evil one, so they don't understand it because they don't have a heart. They're not pursuing God's heart. Their heart has become callous. They do not have the capacity to understand, because truly we have to be given a softened heart in order for us to understand, and that only comes by God. So when anyone hears the message about the kingdom and does not understand it, the evil one comes and snatches away what was sown in their heart. This is the seed sown along the path. The seed falling on rocky ground refers to someone who hears the word and at once receives it with joy. But since they have no root, they last only a short time. When trouble or persecution comes because of the word, they quickly fall away. So, by the way, this is pretty much a guarantee that trouble and persecution will come because of the word. The word doesn't say if trouble or persecution comes, it says when trouble or persecution comes because of the word, they quickly fall away. The seed falling among the thorns refers to someone who hears the word, but the worries of this life and the deceitfulness of wealth choke the word, making it unfruitful. The worries of life and the deceitfulness of wealth. So I've seen this happen many times because God pulls you out of your worldly living, and he will pull you out of disciplines and careers that are not of him. But I've seen people be pulled out of that, and I've seen him deal with them and prove to them that what they're doing is not of him. I've even watched them actually make the decision to come out of that career only to go back in, because the worries of this life and the deceitfulness of wealth choke the word, making it unfruitful. Not able to withstand. They're not able to stand. But the seed falling on good soil refers to someone who hears the word and understands it. Strive to understand it. And this is why I teach you got to love God's heart. Otherwise, you're not going to understand it. That's the number one commandment, is to love the Lord your God with all your heart, mind, and soul. If you do that, and you do it truly, and you conform your heart to what he loves, you are going to understand. And this is the one who produces a crop, yielding 160 or 30 times what was sown. That is a bumper crop. How much more will he give you than what you put in? Jesus told them another parable. The kingdom of heaven is like a man who sowed good seed in his field. But while everyone was sleeping, his enemy came and sowed weeds among the wheat and went away. When the wheat sprouted and formed heads, then the weeds also appeared. The owner's servant came to him and said, "Sir, didn't you sow good seed in your field? Where then did the weeds come from?" "An enemy did this," he replied. The servant asked him, "Do you want us to go and pull them up?" "No," he answered, "because while you are pulling the weeds, you may uproot the wheat with them. Let both grow together until the harvest. At that time, I will tell the harvesters, 'First collect the weeds and tie them in bundles to be burned, then gather the wheat and bring it into my barn.'" He told them another parable. The kingdom of heaven is like a mustard seed which a man took and planted in his field. Though it is the smallest of all seeds, yet when it grows, it is the largest of garden plants and becomes a tree, so that the birds come and perch in its branches. He told them still another parable. The kingdom of heaven is like yeast that a woman took and mixed into about 60 pounds of flour until it worked all the way through the dough. Jesus spoke all these things to the crowd in parables. He did not say anything to them without using a parable. So was fulfilled what was spoken through the prophet. "I will open my mouth in parables. I will utter things hidden since the creation of the world." So now by his Spirit, people are able to understand all of these things that they've been doing for so long. Ritual cleansing, these different commands that God established in order for us to understand spiritual things now are beginning to unfold. People are starting to understand. Now, there's another version of that happening right now. Knowledge is increasing, and so there are certain things that we're understanding now that we haven't understood. And as knowledge is increasing, calloused hearts are also increasing. I got to tell you something about that is that if you're really in him, that should be grieving you. It should be grieving you deeply. It should really be grieving you that people so flippantly say that they believe in him and they'll sit and have conversations with you, and then they'll turn and do evil, or they'll hide from what God is calling them to address. Or when it no longer is convenient for them to be Christian, they'll switch back to their true character. These things should be grieving you, and you should also be able to see them very clearly. Then he left the crowd and went into the house. His disciples came to him and said, "Explain to us the parable of the weeds in the field." He answered, "The one who sowed the good seed is the Son of Man. The field is the world, and the good seed stands for the people of the kingdom. The weeds are the people of the evil one, and the enemy who sows them is the devil. The harvest is the end of the age, and the harvesters are angels. As the weeds are pulled up and burned in the fire, so it will be at the end of the age. The Son of Man will send out his angels, and they will weed out of his kingdom everything that causes sin and all who do evil. They will throw them into the blazing furnace, where there will be weeping and gnashing of teeth. Then the righteous will shine like the sun in the kingdom of their Father. Whoever has ears, let them hear. The kingdom of heaven is like treasure hidden in a field. When a man found it, he hid it again, and then in his joy went and sold all he had and bought that field. Again, the kingdom of heaven is like a merchant looking for fine pearls. When he found one of great value, he went away and sold everything he had and bought it. Now remember that we're listening for the heart of God. That's how we're reading the Gospels. That's how we should be reading the entire word, is always listening for his heart, always pursuing and seeking what is it that's important to God. How do I need to become like him? How does my heart need to become holy as he is holy? And what is holiness? You got to know what it is if that's what we're pursuing, right? And as it is, that's going to be found in the heart of God. And so as he's talking about these things and he's helping us to understand what the kingdom of heaven is, he's helping us to understand that that kingdom is going to be purged. There is not going to be any evil in the kingdom of heaven. There are not going to be any wicked and lazy servants in the kingdom of heaven. Anyone who has their church ethics and then their business ethics. Anyone who has a corner of their heart that they think they're hiding from God. Anyone who has reservations about what they're going to do for him or how they're going to be dealt with by him or what they're going to do with what he's placed them over. The kingdom of heaven is like yeast that a woman worked into the dough, so that the kingdom of heaven should be affecting every part of that lump of dough. Every part of your soul needs to be changed. If you're in the kingdom and the kingdom's in you, every part of your soul needs to be changed. You got to take those roots and you got to dig them down further so that they are healthy. They're spreading out. They're going to take root. They're not going to be scorched by the sun, watering them with the Holy Spirit and his ministry on a daily basis. A mustard tree, a tiny, tiny little seed that grows into this flourishing tree. It's not something that's just hanging out. It's something that is growing. And if you're growing into that flourishing tree, birds are going to come and perch in your tree. Others are going to be affected by what God is doing in you. You are going to be affected deeply. The kingdom of heaven is like a treasure hidden in a field. When a man found it, he hid it again, and then in his joy went and sold all he had and bought that field. The kingdom of heaven is like a merchant looking for fine pearls. When he found one of great value, he went away and sold everything he had and bought it. God is not being poetic here. I mean, these parables that he's using are brilliant. They help us to understand different aspects and levels of the kingdom of heaven that we couldn't understand just from, direct talk. But he is not exaggerating and he's not being poetic. This is for real. This is what people do. They give up everything that they have had, whether that's worldliness, wealth, whatever they were attached to before. There is nothing else matters. Nothing is more important than getting this treasure. Once again, the kingdom of heaven is like a net that was let down into the lake and caught all kinds of fish. When it was full, the fishermen pulled it up on the shore. Then they sat down and collected the good fish in baskets, but threw the bad away. This is how it will be at the end of the age. The angels will come and separate the wicked from the righteous and throw them into the blazing furnace where there will be weeping and gnashing of teeth. Have you understood these things? Jesus asked. Yes, they replied. He said to them, therefore, every teacher of the law who has become a disciple in the kingdom of heaven is like the owner of a house who brings out of his storeroom new treasures as well as old. We got to have both. You won't understand the new treasures if you don't understand the old, and you won't understand the old if you don't understand the fulfillment of the new. When Jesus had finished these parables, he moved on from there. Coming to his hometown, he began to teach the people in their synagogue, and they were amazed. Where did this man get this wisdom and these miraculous powers, they asked. Isn't this the carpenter's son? Isn't his mother's name Mary, and aren't his brothers James, Joseph, Simon, and Judas? Aren't all his sisters with us? Where then did this man get all these things? And they took offense at him. But Jesus said to them, a prophet is not without honor except in his own town and his own home. And he did not do many miracles there because of their lack of faith. So the last thing that I want to say here is, where does faith come from? Does faith come from seeing those miracles, or is faith something that we are honing through relationship with him? Because this is a repeated theme in history. When people are asking for signs and wonders, and they act like that's the foundation of their faith. Well, you got to show me. And I've heard people wickedly do things like, oh, if you're real, God, make the lights flicker in the room, like things like that. God doesn't show up like that. He shows up for people who are pursuing his heart, not his works. And remember what Jesus said in that parable with Lazarus and the rich man, where the rich man is saying to Abraham, go and tell my family about how terrible it is here in hell. And Abraham responded to him, if they will not hear Moses and the prophets, they will not believe him, even though a man would rise from the dead. So is it the works, the miracles, the wonders? Is that what causes faith? If that were so, then the Pharisees would have believed. And this is why God takes that position. No, a wicked and adulterous generation asks for signs, so none will be given to them except the sign of Jonah. The other thing that I see here is what Jesus says to them, a prophet is not without honor except in his own town and in his own home. I want to point out to you that Jesus' own family, now you have to remember that his mother was impregnated by the Holy Spirit. His earthly father, Joseph, received a vision telling him that his wife was pregnant by the Holy Spirit, or his betrothed. And yet his own mother and brothers showed up at the synagogue because they thought he had gone mad. They thought he had lost his mind. We often think that someone's going to show up, or that prophets are going to show up in some kind of form that is going to be different from those we've grown up with, and even those who have lived sinful lives. I mean, the word tells us prostitutes and tax collectors are getting into the kingdom of heaven before Pharisees, before teachers of the law. The word tells us that the king who was throwing this banquet for his son was upset because no one in the kingdom could care less. They were busy with their own lives, their own businesses, their own houses. And so he says, go out to the street. Go invite them. Perfect strangers to the kingdom. Now, I'm not advocating that you start looking at, people from an outside in perspective, but don't discount who God chooses, because we have a certain idea about what holiness looks like, and we could not be more wrong. You consider what you are seeing in counterfeit Christianity. All put together, they've got a poetic message that everybody wants to hear, tells people what their itching ears want to hear, dressed to the nines, they look good. God's people are dressed in sackcloth and ashes. I don't know what these people are wearing. They are not dressed up in worldliness and wealth. Their message is not tickling people's ears. In fact, the word I'm reading says, see no more visions. Stop confronting us with the Holy One of Israel. Stop talking to us. The word I'm reading says that the witnesses are going to be killed and their deaths will be celebrated because they tormented the people that lived on the earth with their message. Their own families think they're crazy. People closest to them do not believe, and I can testify to that. A prophet is not without honor except in his own town and in his own home. I look at people in my own life who have every opportunity. I mean, they've got me at an arm's reach to talk with them, to teach them, share with them. I've given everything that I do for free. I've made it completely accessible to everybody. The books, the videos, the workshops. No, it couldn't be this easy, right? Couldn't be this accessible. God only makes healing accessible to the rich. I mean, we'll complain out of one side of our mouths that we wish we had a solution, but the solution that's right in front of us for free, from God, from his word, from his servants, we don't take it seriously. We don't value it, and we run in cowardice when we're being reproved. For our own good, by the way, because the person reproving you is not getting anything out of that. It isn't fun. It's not fun being the reprover. So see, there should be no question about why it is that God is increasing his wrath, why it is that he will hand people over to the spirit of the Antichrist, why it is that we're experiencing judgment right now and that we're grieved by the things that we're seeing. My recommendation is to go back through this chapter and take a look at each of the parables that Jesus has used here to help you understand the kingdom of heaven and understand God's heart. What is his heart? What is being revealed here? And then rend your heart to what he loves. Last thing that stands out to me here is that Christ was speaking in parable. Everything that he spoke to them was in parable. Every single thing that he spoke right here was in parable. Why is he not just handing it over on a platter? Because it is required that we do the work in our hearts to understand and to pursue his truth. It's a requirement. So I hope that you'll take time to do that. Thank you for listening. God bless you, and I'll see you in the next video.